Welcome, everybody, to DAT Poker Podcast, episode 147. It is October 11th, 2023. I'm your host, A. Schwartz, alongside Roscoe P. Coltrane.
Buongiorno.
Terrence Chan. T, how are you?
Hello. I was just, before you jumped on the call, I was pontificating with Ross about 147 episodes over 6 years, so a little under 25 per year. We're doing okay, considering that from basically the beginning of June to mid-July, we do 0 shows because of this World Series of Poker. And of course, people will notice there are only 3 windows and not 4. The superstar of this show, getting his grind on. And that's the reason, he's been doing that in Vancouver for, I don't know how many weeks that GG series went on, but we felt we had to do a show. It had been so long. So for those of you who are tuning in to see, the most famous and well-known member of the show, we apologize. You just get us 3 slumps for this week.
People used to ask me after like 2-3 weeks, they'd be like, "Are you guys still doing it? Like, when's the next one coming? Some stuff is happening." And people don't really ask anymore. They just kind of wait for them to arrive.
Yeah, Daniel is back in Vegas and at the Poker Go Studios. We'll get to that in a little bit. But we got lots of things to talk about. It's been a while since we did a show. The last one was to congratulate you, Terrence, on your first bracelet. We'll get to some more first bracelets.
Just got a shipping notification on that. I think UPS just sent me an email saying that it's in the. I mean, it's a random shipping UPS, and I'm not expecting anything. So I'm hoping to show off bling on the next episode. We'll see.
Yeah, that'll be nice. But just quickly off the top, I think, we'd be remiss to say that the last few days have been, difficult for anybody who's following the news around the world. It's very hard to read some of the things in the new age of social media when, people with cameras are on the front lines of a war, essentially. And we didn't see this in World War II or World War I, where you get firsthand accounts and video accounts of truly horrific stuff. And it's hard. It's hard to concentrate. It's hard to take anything else seriously when you're sort of caught up reading some of this stuff. I don't know. It's affected me pretty deeply, and I'm sure a lot of people, everybody around the world too, that's following it. You guys having a tough couple of days as well?
I'll say this. The news is not, you can't avoid the news. I don't when events like this happen, I actively make an effort to avoid it on social media, not to reduce the suffering of what's been happening in the Middle East, but as sort of just a mental health thing. It's a hard thing to face. And I definitely am not clicking on any videos or reading any in-depth accounts, because the amount I see just in passing is plenty enough to negatively affect my mental health. I'm not trying to stick my head in the sand. At the same time, I've got to focus what's in front of me. I've got 2 kids and a family, and you do too, Adam, and we all have. It's a reminder to hold the things close that matter to you, and I'll take it at that, and I'm not going to do a deep dive on what's going on. I think the time to do that is actually later on. And, I obviously, you want to encourage people to educate themselves on the history of the region and do as much learning as you can. But it's hard to do that in a moment. It's funny when you're a parent, they always tell you when you've got like a toddler and you get like the terrible 2s and the terrible 3s, they say, don't try to teach when the tantrum's happening. Don't, because that's when people are not capable of making good decisions and understanding things rationally and using the frontal part of their brain that's for reasoning, for cognitive reasoning. That's the time when you're using the back of your brain, the emotional side. And I think it's like that when tragic and horrifying events happen in the world too. We're just big apes. We're just big apes, and we don't do a great job when there's threat, when there's big emotional damage, of using the reasoning part of our brains. And so, I choose to take this time to step back a little bit, and we can wait, and we can discuss the finer points of politics and foreign policy another time.
Yeah,
I agree.
Well said.
Yeah, it's difficult to. Everybody's pretty, especially on this issue. Everybody is extremely dug in. There's no point in trying to change anybody's mind.
Yeah, it's horrific for sure. Yes, but we've got some stuff to talk about, and life goes on, and we'll do that. One other quick sort of sad note: Anthony Holden, who wrote The Big Deal, which I think is probably the first non-instructional poker book that I read. He wrote The Big Deal. Like I said, Anthony Holden died at 78, I believe, in London. Just an amazing. So this is basically this writer from England decided that he was going to become a poker player for a year, travel to Vegas and play in the main event of the World Series and document his year as a poker player and write a book about it. And it's back in the days in the 80s and 90s when you had all the characters that everybody knows. And it's a fantastic read if you haven't read it at all and you're at all interested in old school poker characters and stories and what poker was like back 30, 40 years ago. You might want to take a spin through the book. It's pretty amazing. It's a pretty good book, and we'll miss the poker community. We'll miss them. Terrence, you've read it, obviously.
I've read. I mean, I read it so many times, and if you haven't read it, read it. If you're like me, you haven't read it in a while. I plan to do that this week when I find a little bit of time, because this was a book that was tremendously influential on my life. It's The Big Deal and The Biggest Game in Town. Those are like the two books of that capture this era of poker before the modern era of poker. And I don't mean like post Moneymaker, but even going back earlier than that, if you really get a feel of old gamblers with cigarettes and you can, when you read a book like The Big Deal, like you can smell the inside of the horseshoe. Like, you can place, it's amazing. Go find some time and read it. And if you're new to poker, this is a world that it's just foreign. I mean, it's poker. You'll understand the words, you'll understand the flops, you'll understand that the way that the hands are dealt, but everything else, like, you go to a casino in Vegas, it is nothing like it was described in a book like The Big Deal. It's fantastic. I love it. We'll R.I.P. Anthony Holden. It was love the book. Gonna go read it again. That's like, I'm gonna put at the top of my list is find time to read the book.
Absolutely. We mentioned it. Daniel Negreanu is back down from Vancouver. He was in Vancouver for quite a period of time. Back down at the Poker Go Studios. He's into his new home and playing poker every day at the Aria. I went down to Vegas last week, and it was during the Super High Roller Bowl, the $300,000 buy-in we'll talk about in a minute. But hung out with Remco and Donnie Peters for a little bit in the studios and watched a little bit of the action. It's amazingly quiet in there. So there was only 20 people that bought in for the Super High Roller Bowl this year. So there was, there wasn't a big crowd. It was pretty quiet. It was just interesting how everybody was very, very quiet. Is
that something that anybody can sweat at the Poker Go studio, or did you get like a special press pass, or is it because you're Adam Schwartz and you're known? Do you think anybody could have walked in?
They're like, who is this dude? I walked in with Remco, which probably helped.
Okay.
But I don't know. It's a good question. Nobody really asked us or anything, so I'm not 100% sure. But it was an interesting experience, and it was neat to drop by, catch up with some people, and watch that. I also actually went to the U2 concert at the Sphere, which was
look at you.
It's amazing. There's 18,000 seats. There's like a top quality speaker in every seat, and it's a completely new experience in entertainment. It was 2.3 billion or something, what it was to build that thing. But if you get an opportunity to go to see a show there, do it, because it's pretty amazing. And
do you think if you went there like high on mushrooms, you would have an aneurysm?
You'd be done. You'd carry you out. It would be crazy. The definition on the screen behind the sort of that you're looking up at is incredible, and the graphics on there. I know somebody, U2's a band, and so you want to watch them, but you're also watching, this high def show that's going on behind them. So it'll be interesting to see how entertainers use the screen and how they use the experience. I think it'll be a little different for all kinds of different bands, because U2's a classic, one of the classic rock bands of our time, and you really kind of want to watch them rock out as well as take in some of the stuff. So, but if you go for, I know that there'll be some visual only shows there, which will be mind blowing, and I'm looking forward to taking some of those in. And took in a Knights game and played a bunch of poker at the Wynn. I'm back in the PLO streets, and the games were good and having fun playing PLO here in Vancouver as well. And then heading out to Calgary, actually going to go to the Deerfoot. They have their fall poker series on next week. So I'm going to go play, and I'm back in. They what's the line from The Godfather? They suck me back.
They pull me back in.
Yeah. That's
we need an A Shorts report. What were the biggest pots you played in Vegas?
Well, I was playing a bunch of PLO at the Wynn and played some 2-5 no limit hold'em at the Aria. So yeah, a couple $1,000 pots, $1,500, nothing huge. Just getting my feet wet
flips,
again.
Wraps for some sets.
Yeah, nothing crazy. I'll make a mental note to put some hands together, some live hands together for the next podcast, and we can talk about them. For sure. But as I said, everything's going on down at the Poker Go Studios at the Aria. The Super High Roller Bowl just completed. Ike Haxton takes his second Super High Roller Bowler down for $2.7 million. The $300,000 buy-in. Only 20 people. So 24 last year when Daniel took it down. And 20 people this year. I don't know if the scheduling or what's happening, or if this is sort of, there was upwards of 30, closer to 40 in the past. Different locations, maybe. I think it was in a different location when they had 40 odd people. But not a ton of people putting up the $300,000 to play against the best in the world. I kind of get it, but I don't know, Terrence. Do you think this is sort of a waning tournament, or is it just too specialized to have a long life?
Yeah, I think it's always going to, swing with the variances in the economy and stuff like that. I'm a little surprised that the number is low too. I think if Daniel were here, he would be talking about a lot of the people who don't want to travel, who aren't able to travel. The high roller tournaments, typically will draw the Asian contingent, which aren't going to come to Las Vegas. If Daniel were here, he'd also talk about the Canadians that maybe don't play in this thing as well because of the 30%. So, I'm sure a multitude of factors, but it's hard for me to think of any one particular thing. Did you, is that something that you asked somebody like Remco or anything about?
I did. And I didn't, we didn't get into the numbers at the time. It was still a couple of tables, and I probably should have talked to him about it, but no, it'll be interesting to hear, like you said, Daniel's take on it when we get him back on the show. But so, he wins his second tournament, beats Chewy in a long heads up, lucky Chewy. Andrew Lichtenberger after a long heads up battle. But with 8 left, and I think it was just after I left there, 8 left, Daniel was the short stack, and he had 20, but short stack with 28 big blinds. It's limped around to him, folded around to him in the small blinds. He limps with ace queen off. Ike is in the big blind and shoves all in. Ike's the chip leader at the time. I think he had about 90 big blinds or so. And he shoves for Daniel's 28 big blinds with ace 4 off, which Daniel snap called and then lost when a 4 flopped, and Daniel didn't improve. But it just seemed like a weird hand. Like, far be it for me to think I made a bad play or anything like that. He's a wizard and he's one of the best of all time. I get it. But I was a bit confused on the 28 big blind shove there on Daniel's limp. I don't know if there's, some past history with him and Daniel, obviously, that maybe was coming into play there. But Terrence, did you see that hand? Thoughts on that one?
Yeah, of course. And, looked at the solver outputs, and it's a little wider than even the solver liked. I mean, Ike Haxton is one of the closest things we have on this planet to a human solver, but even he's going to get some wrong. But I think, offsuit aces often perform well as a shove. Up to a number of big blinds that's bigger than we would think it is, because of course it blocks aces, obviously, it blocks other premium hands, gets Broadway hands to often fold, and even if not it's actually a small favorite of our 2 Broadway hands. Gets a wide variety of the limping range to fold. In this instant, not that. Daniel has made a point. He even told us in our group chat. He probably limps with a stronger distribution than the majority of the population in the super high roller bowl. Which, if that's true, that makes Ike's shove a little bit worse, because if he's going to limp with a lot of the if he is going to slow play a lot of big hands there, then that traps Ike. I think Daniel probably would have expected Ike to make a 3.5 or 4. With the positional advantage, Daniel still has to fold a lot of hands. Even, if he's like, say, Daniel's limping everything, which can often happen in the big blind ante, then he still has to fold to a lot of 3.5x, 4x type raises. His thinking is Ike doesn't have to risk 20 big blinds. It's like over a quarter of a stack. But on the other hand, you look at the solutions. A lot of the ace raggy hands are shoves, even at the stack. I think again, I think you and I are dramatically underqualified to criticize somebody with the credentials like Haxton. But like, you've got 8 left. You're starting to get to the point where ICM will become a factor soon. It's not quite yet because, like you said, with 20 players left, there's the payouts are still, we're still far from the money. But Ike, if we can get down to 5 or 4 players, would start to have a big ICM advantage if he had a big stack. So maybe he's putting himself into contention, trying to become an even bigger stack. But yeah, you'd have to ask Ike about the play. I think to get the real answer of why he ripped it in there.
That's a good question. You mentioned it. ICM, thoughts. There's 8 left. They pay 4.
Yeah.
At what point, are we, considering or taking serious consideration into ICM how many left when they're paying 4?
Yeah, I mean 6. I mean, it always matters. I mean, ICM always matters a little bit, and It matters more the closer that you get. I mean, if you're the big stack 5-handed, you get to absolutely wreck people. Even 6-handed, you mostly have like the 2 short stacks like competing to play. They're the ones who are trying to compete to not be the short stack anymore. But yeah, it's a really significant factor in tournaments like these. Especially, I think the more shorthanded it is, the more it actually matters.
Okay. So it's funny too. So Ike has his mask on, right? He's got his mask on for the tournament, and a lot
of people obviously are upset about. I mean, even in the more polarized COVID world that we live in, even more so now. But even before COVID was even a word that we'd ever heard of, there was still conversations about people wearing their hoodies and turtleneck sweaters over their mouths with sunglasses and whether this stuff should be allowed. Now we're in a world where the mask itself is a political statement or a lack of a statement, and that like I feel like if I went into this tournament wearing just the hoodie and sunglasses and the turtleneck sweater, it wouldn't be commented on as much as when he wears the N95 mask, which is, a statement, let's say.
Yeah. And then in the winner's photos, he's hugging the money and he's got his mask on, and poker goes.
And that's a tradition for him now. Like, Ike loves the trolling people.
It's
and
total trolling. It's the best.
Off the hate comments that he gets, and, just everybody calling him a beta cuck or whatever people like to call people these days. He loves it, and he's got, just because he's like Haxton, an incredible collection of winner photos wearing an N95 mask, and it's, regardless of your political affiliation, you really have to respect the trolling.
It's they just get triggered. It's funny just watching or reading some of the responses to the Poker Go tweet. So immediately after the Super High Roller Bowl, they fire up the mixed game series, the PGT mixed game series. Of course, everybody's looking to get up higher on the PGT mixed board or the PGT leaderboard to get into the free roll. They're through 5 of 9 events right now. Daniel actually got second place yesterday in the 10K 8 game, taking down I think about 120K. And Dmitry Urbanovich takes that one down. So a couple more days of mixed game series down at the Poker Go studio, and I think that's the first time I was in the studio when there was actually poker going on, and the equipment, everything. That thing is unbelievable. The visuals, the just everything they have going on, the sight lines, the audio visual equipment is top notch, and it's pretty cool. I don't know it's a good question if you can just walk in, but if you can, definitely go have a look sometime or try and play.
Such a fun tournament there. I was going to say, like, if it weren't, for a lot of things we discussed, 30% withholding, it being a relatively tough, I imagine, field.
Yeah.
It's not like the World Series field where everybody goes down because it's the World Series. It's like the middle of October. But I would have so much fun playing the series. I love mixed games. I'm not a no limit hold'em guy, but they've got like the horse big bet mix and the 10 game and the 8 game and all the stud games and all the draw games. And today is actually dealer's choice, which I know if Daniel were here, he would love to talk about, strategy, what game you call in what circumstance. Like, what game are you going to call in the bubble if you're a big stack? What about if you're a short stack? What about, if you're at the final table and you've seen this advantage then? And you do see a lot of this meta played out, talking about like people, do you pick your better games early? Do you try to hide your better games? There's a lot of fun, obviously, in the dealer's choice events. Field like this, maybe less so because you've got, everybody knows everybody in a lot of ways, but you still obviously different mixed games affect ICM very, very differently. Like the difference between pot limit triple draw and like 08, like just miles apart, right?
Yeah.
Like because of like the likelihood that you get scooped in one game or another, or that the pot gets inflated in one game or another.
Wrapping up the WSOP online events over at GG Poker, Bert Stevens, known as Giraffe Ganger 7, takes down the World Series of Poker.
The name we've seen written like 8 million times. I don't know how it's said either.
I know. I know. He's the OG stud of online tournaments, and I can't pronounce his name. He wins the largest World Series of Poker online main event ever. 6,023 entries into the 5K event on GG Poker. Prize pool $28 million. He streamed it on Twitch, which was I think got a big following there watching it. But there was also a pretty funny photo posted after of the complete disaster that his poker room was. It was a mess. It was disgusting. It was like, oh my God, dude, you live in squalor, but you just won 2.7 million. Get a maid in here for a couple hours, to clean this thing up. To me wasn't the best part. I didn't even notice that, to be honest. My favorite was like the reaction immediately. He gets it all in, whatever he holds, and he goes to. Do you see? He tries to do the Hulk Hogan shirt ripoff. He tries to rip his shirt off like Hulk Hogan, but he physically cannot. It's great, and he actually acknowledges. He goes like, "Rawr," and then he's like, "I can't rip my shirt," and then he celebrates, which is, I think, one of the most. I think it's like maybe the best like internet nerd moment ever. Like, just won a ton of money, the emotions, whatever. I just tried to rip off my shirt, and I just learned I can't rip off my shirt because I'm not Hulk Hogan, as it turns out. It's not easy to rip your shirt off. I think
I don't think so either.
He probably pre-cut his shirt a little bit, right? You can't just.
Well, Hogan, they were like stretchy. You could see the fan. Like,
also he's all the cuts in it. Yeah,
260 pounds of muscle, right? Like, but yeah, that was the fact that he went for it is just fantastic. That's my favorite moment of that particular Twitch stream. I mean, if anything should go viral, it's that. But yeah, it's not every day you get to watch a man win millions of dollars playing a game on the internet. Like, you just get to follow along live. It's amazing.
Yeah, pretty awesome for all those Twitch streamers that are watching him too, right? To see that, watch him do it, watch him might make his plays, that they can jump on and get involved in the game. Maybe they haven't played poker online, and maybe they can open an account and jump on.
Obviously, super good publicity for GG as well. I'm sure they've had conversations with him. Yeah,
for sure. T, you won your first bracelet this year in the World Series of Poker online series. That started a trend because Shannon Shore, who is forever called the best tournament player without a bracelet, he won the 2K Six Max for $89,000.
He just won a poker bracelet.
Old school. Very close to after that. Our buddy Ben Wilanowski takes down his first bracelet in the 5K PLO, taking down $245,000. So big shout out to Ben. That's awesome. Happy that he's doing well.
Yeah, absolutely. I texted with Ben a little bit after that, and he sent me the screenshot, and he said it looked like fun what you did, so I decided to do it too. And I was like, yeah, it's not only is it fun, but you won like 4 times more money than I did, so you should be having even 4 times even more fun.
So what have you done since you won? Are you mixing it up in the streets? Are you withdrawing all your money? What are you doing?
Yeah, I am. bought a gaming chair. I mean that helped a
gaming
little. I did play a little bit online throughout the month. Just a little mixed game tournament action online. I haven't been playing a lot, but I mean I have stepped back a little from poker. I am training. I'm going to do, there's a little aside, nothing related to poker, but I'm going to Vegas in the beginning of December to train. I'm going to compete in like the Nogi World Championships, but for the old man division. So those you know me for a while know I used to compete in MMA. I have not competed in anything that was outside of felt and cards and mice and buttons in about 5 years. So I'm doing the process of putting myself back in shape for just a grappling tournament, but it's a big one in Vegas, and I get to compete against only old dads like myself. So it'll be a 40+ division. We'll all try not to break a hip, or at least if you're going to break a hip, break somebody else's hip. So that's what I've been focusing on. I haven't played too much poker in a while. I did have a September full of poker, but I'm toning it down. I'm gonna try to break arms and break hearts in December. So
wait, it's grappling only. There's no striking. Is that it?
There's no hitting. There's no hitting. You just take people down and try to submit them.
Okay. Nice.
So, that's going on in Vegas. It'll be at the Vegas Convention Center.
When did you turn 40?
Well, I mean, I wish I could say recently, but it wasn't that recent. I'm a man. I'm 40.
Oh man.
You need to send out an invite to Huxseed, see where he's at for the grappling tournament.
Yeah, Huxseed doesn't want him. Unless he's been training on the down low for like the last 7 years, in which case he'll whip my ass because he's 6'7" and stud athlete.
Good. Yeah. So I think you mentioned it. You've been playing a lot of Triple Draw, right? That's the game that you've sort of focused on. I think I started that around January, like really focusing on both Triple Draw and Badugi, I'd say, but probably more Deuce to 7 Triple Draw. I think it's a little bit more fun than Badugi. Badugi you gotta fold sometimes. Triple Draw, Deuce to 7, you rarely fold. So yeah, I've been focusing on that and just watching replays of final tables, trying to get my hands on just what the best players in the world have been doing. But watching a lot of Benny Glazer, who has been on an absolutely atrocious heat, just the most disgusting heater, not only winning the 10K Triple Draw at the World Series, but also like winning one on, W Coop Online and just winning a bunch of other stuff. So we're watching some of his final table replays and just trying to learn from the best players in the world through Triple Draw. I try to do basically one game at a time, and I've mentioned this on the show, and try to get like pretty good at one player game at a time. I think Raz might be the next game that I tackle next. I've always been sort of not as strong as stud games, and I don't like split pot games. I'm a one way kind of guy. I'm not a 2-way guy. I'm not good at the 8 or better games like you are. So yeah, I mean, stud, Raz. I'm gonna eventually get good at all the 1-way games, and by the time I'm like 65, I'll be able to play everything. Can I introduce you to the great game of PLO? I think you'd enjoy it quite a bit.
PLO is a very good 1-way game. I did have a flirtation with PLO for a while, but I mean, the thing about big bet games now is that they do kind of play slow. I've made this complaint about No Limit Hold'em is that the pace of it is, especially live, is a little bit slow. When you play like live with no shot clock, it's a little bit slow. And so my main issue with No Limit and PLO is just people take too long, and I like to gamble and I like to think about poker. But I don't like it when people take like 30 seconds to make very simple decisions, and that just drives.
It's funny you say that. So I went to the casino.
Give me the action. Just check, bet, check. Let's go.
It's like I said, it was funny. I went to the casino a couple of days ago with a friend of mine, and she's wanted to try playing poker. We played a little bit, just in home games and stuff. But so she played 1-3 No Limit Hold'em, and an hour or two later, she came over. She's like, "How do you do that?" Because I was playing PLO. She's like, "How do you sit and play in that game? It's painful. It's slow. It's terrible. People are taking 3 minutes to call $10. She's like, just fuck here. Do you need the $10? Like she's just furious.
It's really
like,
bad.
I don't know how to do that.
And I think we have to have a conversation about this as a poker community. Professional poker players need to realize you're chasing people away, like your friend who's actually interested in playing the game, and it feels like you're stepping over dollars to pick up pennies when you do this, like I check, like this really slow check. You go watch like a stud cash game, right? Go watch like a 40-80 stud cash game if you can find one. Watch how fast these guys play. Somebody makes an open pair on 4th Street. The other guy doesn't even wait for him to bet, right? Like you just let's fold the hand. We're done. We know who's going to win the pot. Let's go. Like you watch Raz. Like guy goes banana. That guy's done with the hand. It's over. Like it's poker's a fast game, and we talked right off the top about Anthony Holden and poker in the 80s and stuff like that. You go and you watch a World Series. Fire up your VHS player and watch a World Series event from like the 80s. They make no limit decisions practically that fast.
Yeah.
You see like a guy bet like 3/4 pot on the flop or something like that. You can see another guy move in like 8 seconds later. They don't tank, and this tanking is, I think we have to have a conversation with ourselves in the poker community about, is all this tanking, all you're balancing your play, all you're making sure you give off absolutely no tells when you look at when you defend your big blind and the flop comes ace king king. And you're going to check 100%.
Yeah.
That you got to wait your 10 seconds before you gently tap the felt with your one finger. And then the other guy bets 300. And then you got to wait your 20 seconds and grab 3 black chips and put them 1 fucking inch in front of you so the dealer has to reach across the fucking table to get it. Let's have a conversation about that. And then again, like compare yourself to go watch like a round of mixed games at Resorts World and see how long you last if you play like that.
Yeah. Actually, PLO is pretty good. Comparatively,
I was about to say I'd like to defend the live PLO players. I think okay. You get the right group of PLO players, it goes pretty fast.
Yeah. Okay. PLO, maybe they gamble a little bit more. Fair enough.
They're ready to gamble and get it in.
No limit hold'em guys. It's bad.
It's hard.
Okay. I won't talk because I haven't played live PLO in probably about 8 years. So fair.
I'm interested. So you watch some Benny Glaser, you watch some of the high level pros play some deuce to 7. Do you do any training videos? Do you subscribe to any site?
I did. So I did go and run it once. I watched a lot of the mixed game content they have there, which is basically only one guy, Ito Pepe. There's a guy, deuce to 7. There's a guy on Card Player who writes really good articles. Kevin Haney. Nobody that you've ever heard of, but writes really good articles on Triple Draw.
Shut up.
That's pretty much all the stuff I have. I mean, a lot of it, like, I'm sure there's solvers and private solvers out there for Triple Draw. I've tried to find one, but I basically just sit there with a spreadsheet sometimes and try to figure out, like, are you supposed to chase a 9 draw in this situation? It's very old school. I wish I had access. I wish there was a pile solver for Triple Draw, but the ones that are out there, they're probably like $10,000 and only 8 guys have them.
And then what about Badoogie? Is there resources out there for Badoogie as well?
There's a really good simulator. I will find it. When I'm offline and send it to Ross to put in the show notes. There's a pretty good Badoogie simulator. Of course, Troutulator, trout like the fish, Ulator, is a good Badoogie simulator and a good draw simulator, and I think a stud simulator. That's the stuff that the old school guys use to learn about that. Just give you hot and cold frequency. It's not a solver, but you'll learn stuff about that. Badoogi's a really interesting game. A lot of people play Badoogie really poorly, and I think my edge is probably, at least my stats, bigger in Badoogie, even though I don't personally think I play it as well as I play deuce to 7, but it's because other people make really, really horrendous mistakes. They don't fold enough. Usually it's not folding enough after the second draw. Chasing Badoogies against people who are definitely already have Badoogies. It's just a game that, like I say, I don't think it's as good as deuce to 7 because if you play it badly, you just get crushed. I think you play crushed. You can be a bad player at deuce to 7 Triple Draw and still do okay. A lot of the times you get absolutely smashed at Badoogie.
Yeah. And then Raz, you said, is the next game you're gonna approach.
Yeah, Raz. I mean, it's not like the most exciting or intricate game in the world. There are some intricacies to it, so it's more of a matter of, I think, getting deep on some of the marginal situations in Raz, because Raz is not a super complex game. Usually, most hands play themselves.
Nice, good.
Watch Phil Hellmuth's Raz bracelet win.
It's the one where he gets. I don't know, 3 to a 7 or something, goes king queen against like a made 8 and makes it. I'll never forget that hand. Like he just called it on 6 like it was nothing and hits bingo for a wheel.
Anthony Zino told me he thinks that Phil plays Raz pretty well. So
Okay, well there you go. maybe he was just being nice.
Yeah, that's possible. Anthony Zinn was very nice. So,
speaking of old school games, so Doyle Brunson, the celebration of life that happened in Las Vegas, was videotaped, and it's a great sort of stroll down memory lane with a lot of Doyle's peers, Maury Eskandani, Lyle Berman, and Dewey Tomko. And then also Helmuth and Daniel spoke as well. And then Todd Brunson finished it with some great stuff. And if you are at all interested in Doyle's life and stories about Doyle, it's up on YouTube. Go check that out. I think you'd enjoy that a lot. T, did you watch that?
I didn't get a chance to watch much of that yet, but it's definitely on my list.
Yeah.
I know that we've heard Daniel's stories on there. I think Daniel retells one of his favorite stories about Doyle and Phil on the golf course on that one. So that's one of the things that we're looking at.
Some of the stuff that happened on the golf course with those guys is mind-boggling, to say the least, for sure.
Actually, the part that I did watch was... So I did watch some of it, but the part that I would watch was not any of the speakers, but it was actually where Doyle spoke more about his private life and his relationship with his wife. And I thought that was really meaningful to me, again, as a family person, that, it's something about the older generation, the way that they often speak about their wives, like people who are like 80 years old and have been married to the same person for like 60 years. It's just so impressive because, like, we're guys, we know how hard it is sometimes to be, maintain a loving relationship with your partner and your significant other. Like it's a really beautiful thing. I thought that was the part that spoke to me the most about how he just, met this woman one day, decided she was going to be the one, and they just did it for 60 years, or however long it was. That to me is just like maybe more impressive than anything he's done in poker. It sounds weird to say that, but it was really cool.
Yeah, for sure. Check that out on YouTube. All right, so let's get to some tweets. Melissa Burr writes, would you rather wear a roller skate on one foot all of the time, every day, the rest of your life, only able to take it off for showers, or eat every meal that Allan Kessler eats is the meal you have to eat every day for the rest of your life? And after seeing the plain, terrible food that Allan Kessler eats on a daily basis, I'm putting that fucking roller skate on and eating well. This one isn't even close. It's roller skate, 1 foot the rest of my life because I get to eat the best food and enjoyable food. T, what do you got there?
Yeah, I mean, I why? I'm not.
Oh,
pass.
Come on! It's close. I know how much you love
Can
food.
you imagine doing a leg kick on somebody with a roller skate on?
Yeah, there's a lot of like life impediments that I think would. I like sports, and I like holding my 1-year-old who can't actually still walk yet. I don't know if I get too much approval from the wife to carry the baby boy around on a roller skate.
Ross, you're strapped.
Kessler's the word. I don't. It's amazing to me that Allan Kessler has made a brand out of being Allan Kessler.
Yeah.
This is one of the like plot twists in poker that I never would have seen coming. That like Allan, like this guy who is basically famous for A, being cheap, B, having no taste, and C, complaining, is now one of the biggest stars in our business. Like in a way, like not like he's not like Daniel or Phil or Ivy or Helmuth level star, but he's in probably like the next tier, right? Like he's got his own segment on Daniel's vlog that like everybody says they want. Allan, like, well done, I think he's like a good enough human, so I'm not gonna, he's always been nice to me, but it's like this is the brand we've established: cheap, poor taste, complaining, and that now you're a star.
We can thank Larry David.
Only he can do that. Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah.
I would probably wear the skate. I think now that
come on.
I think it might be difficult when you get older, but Allan's diet would take years off your life.
I guess there's no rule against wearing wearing a skate on the other. She didn't specifically say you have to wear exactly you might just be one of those those 50s diner waitresses that you're just on roller skates all the time. You just get really good at roller skating. And then you could just live your whole life on roller skates because you've got two of them.
If you can only wear one, which foot? I think I'm putting it on my left foot.
I have a really bad left ankle, so I guess I have to go right.
Sam Greenwood, did you put this one in, or is this Ross?
Yeah, that's me. It says, me watching the Super High Roller Bowl at a Robe at 9 a.m. All these guys are terrible. Every hand, there's at least one excusable blunder. Every Super High Roller Bowl exit interview. I played the best poker of my life, but the cards just didn't go my way. It must be hard to be so good at poker like Sam Greenwood is. Just have to watch this. It's he's one of the Canadians that I think would obviously play. If not for the 30% withholding and so on and so forth. I just want to know if Sam Greenwood buster from the tournament, who he would say is likely to go on to win the tournament.
I think Sam needs to find...
We'll know that's Daniel's favorite question.
Yeah. Sam needs to find an American to have an arranged marriage with or something so he can go and play this tournament.
For Kristen Foxen, right?
Oh, all right. I think that's going to wrap it up. A little bit shorter show today. We got through some of the stuff that's out there in the poker world. Daniel, I'm sure, will join us once the PGT mixed game series is done this week or next week. So we'll look forward to that. And until then,
I got one real quick shout out. Poker related. This book right here, The Truth Detective by Alex O'Brien, great friend of mine. It's going to be coming out in about a month. Will Kassouf cameo right off the top. I don't know if that's a selling. That's probably not.
Is that a positive thing?
I probably just fucked it up, but it's still a great book. Read it, buy it. It's on Amazon. You can pre-order it.
Give us the synopsis. What's the
using pokers as a parallel in everyday life to try to improve decision making. I probably did a terrible job of that too. I'm sorry, Alex. I just remembered I had to do it.
I'm sold.
Okay. Buy it on Amazon or wherever people buy books these days. That is an Amazon also.
All right. Thanks to you guys for getting together today. Thanks to everybody out there for watching, and we will talk to you soon.
Bye.